Welcome back to Emma United Analyst. My name is Emma, and if you are serious about understanding Manchester United beyond the headlines, you are in exactly the right place. Today is a big day for United coverage. There is a lot happening around this football club right now, and every single story we are going to walk through today matters. From a top four probability that has just gone through the roof, to a manager being quietly vindicated by the biggest game in European football this week, to transfer targets being confirmed, player confidence crises, and a Marcus Rashford situation that is getting messier by the day. We are going to go through every single one of these stories today. And I am going to give you not just the information, but the analysis. What does it mean? Why does it matter? And what should United fans actually think about all of this? Let us get straight into it. The top four breakthrough. Let me read you exactly what came out this morning from Centre Devils on social media. Manchester United are now certain to finish in the top four with a 93% probability after beating Brentford last night. That figure comes from Polymarket, and the chart attached to that post tells the full story. Back in October, United's probability of finishing in the top four was sitting somewhere near the bottom of that graph. It was negligible. It was embarrassing, frankly. The line barely moved for months, and then around April, that line shot upward like a rocket and is now sitting just below 100%. The volume on that Polymarket contract is $1,786,504. That is not a small sample. That is a significant amount of money betting on United finishing in the top four. Now, here is my analysis on this. The 93% figure is extraordinary when you place it in the context of where this club was just a few months ago. A top four finish under these circumstances would be one of the most remarkable turnarounds in recent Premier League history. This is a club that was being written off completely. And now the market is telling us that it is almost certain they will be back in the Champions League next season. What makes this even more significant is the timing. Beating Brentford was not a glamour fixture. It was not a headline result. It was a functional, grinding, important 3 points. And that is what a top four team does. It finds ways to win the games it needs to win. The market has noticed. The data has noticed. And now every United fan watching this needs to notice too. This is not luck. A 93% probability does not happen by accident over a full season. Something has genuinely changed at this football club. Michael Owen defends Rasmus Hojlund. Here is what Simply United posted this morning, quoting Michael Owen from a recent discussion. Michael Owen has urged Manchester United to hand Rasmus Hojlund a fair opportunity to prove himself at the club. Owen said, and I am reading his exact words here, "I don't care who you play up front. It's very hard to judge when the team aren't functioning." He continued, "Strikers are the end of the chain. If the chain is broken, it's pointless in many ways. I would love to see Hojlund and see what he can do now." He then added, "He played in a Manchester United team that was broken and didn't have any links and played poorly. Who's to say he's not really good? He's doing really well in Italy now." Owen brought in another comparison. Sesko is the same. It was hard to judge, but now that chain throughout the team is actually working. You are seeing a different type of player. And then he made a broader point. "I just wonder how much wastage there has been for many years. Everyone says the purchases have been poor, and that might be the case, but sometimes they might not get a fair crack of the whip because they don't get the service." Now here is my analysis on this. Michael Owen is making a point that I think a significant portion of United supporters need to hear. The environment a striker plays in is not a minor variable. It is the defining variable. A striker at the end of a broken chain is not going to look good. It is structurally impossible for them to look good. Hojlund arrived at a Manchester United side that was dysfunctional from back to front. Passing lanes were broken, creative connections were missing, midfield was chaotic. And somehow fans expected the striker to produce elite numbers. The fact that Hojlund is now performing well in Italy, as Owen points out, is important information. It tells us that the player has ability. The question was never really the player. The question was the system around him. And then Owen points to Sesko. Sesko is now looking like a completely different player at United compared to how he might have looked earlier in his time there. Because the chain is now working, the connections are being made.
The service is arriving.
This is a much bigger conversation about how we judge players in football, and Owen is absolutely right to raise it. The wastage he refers to, the number of players who may have been unfairly judged because the team around them was not functioning, is a real and serious problem that has cost this club both money and talent over many years. Francisco Conceicao transfer interest. Two separate social media accounts are reporting the same story here, so let me read both to you. United Exclusive posted, "New Manchester United and Liverpool are monitoring Juventus winger Francisco Chico Conceicao, who has significantly improved this season under Luciano Spalletti and contributed to 8 goals in all competitions. Manchester United view him as an ideal attacking winger. Both Premier League clubs have intensified their interest after noting his more central role at Juventus. That report was sourced from Gazzetta dello Sport. Simply Utile also posted on the same story, Manchester United and Liverpool are monitoring Francisco Conceicao of Juventus. The winger has improved significantly this season under Luciano Spalletti, contributing to 8 goals in all competitions. United see him as an ideal attacking option, and both Premier League clubs have intensified their interest after noting his more central role at Juventus, also sourced from Gazzetta dello Sport. Now, before I give you my analysis, I want to be very clear with you. This is a rumour, this is monitoring, this is interest. There is no deal, there is no bid, there is no agreement of any kind. I will not present this to you as anything more than what it is. Now, here is my analysis. The fact that 2 credible United-focused accounts are both independently reporting the same story, both citing Gazzetta dello Sport, gives this rumour a reasonable level of credibility. When 2 separate sources land on the same information from the same origin, it is worth taking seriously, even if the situation is still at an early stage. What is interesting here is the detail about Conceicao's evolving role at Juventus. He is not just being monitored as a wide winger. United and Liverpool have specifically intensified their interest after noticing his more central positioning. That is tactically significant. A player who can operate centrally as well as wide gives a manager much more flexibility. And given the style of football that has been developing at United this season, a player with that kind of versatility would be a genuinely useful addition. 8 goal contributions across all competitions is a solid return for a player who has adapted and improved under Spalletti. It shows development, it shows an upward curve, and clubs like United, who need players with momentum heading into a Champions League season, should be looking at exactly this kind of profile. But again, this is monitoring. This is interest, nothing more right now. Keep that in perspective. Before we continue, I want to say something directly to you. If you are watching this channel and you appreciate analysis that goes beyond the surface, analysis that actually explains what the facts mean and what the implications are, then this is the channel for you. Hit that subscribe button right now. There are stories developing around Manchester United every single day, and I am here to break them down properly for you. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss a video. Now let us keep going. Jarrad Branthwaite remains on United shortlist. Stretford End posted this. Jarrad Branthwaite remains a long-term target for Manchester United and continues to feature on their transfer shortlist despite limited appearances this season due to injury. Discussions were held earlier this year between the players' representatives and the club. The England defender is believed to be open to leaving Everton in order to secure a move to Old Trafford. Negotiations could develop further in the coming months as the situation progresses. That report was sourced from Time Sport. Now here is my analysis. The key word in this story is long-term. Branthwaite is not a new name in United's thinking. The interest has been consistent. And what this update tells us is that the interest has not faded, even though Branthwaite has had a difficult season with injuries. That persistence matters. When a club continues to monitor a player through an injury-disrupted season rather than quietly moving on, it suggests the belief in that player's ability runs deep. United are not interested in the version of Branthwaite that played limited minutes this year. They are interested in the version they saw before, and they believe that version will return. The detail about discussions already taking place between the players' representatives and the club is significant. This is not just a scout watching from a distance. Conversations have happened. The player is believed to be open to the move. That is a meaningful level of progress for a player who is still technically at Everton. The caution here, of course, is Everton's position, how they value Branthwaite, how negotiations develop, and whether United can meet their demands remains to be seen. But the groundwork has clearly been laid. This is one to watch very closely over the coming months. Monday night fixtures and revenue impact. Centre Devils posted this. New Monday night fixtures, which Manchester United have played 6 times this season, are costing up to £1 million a game in revenue. The club does see a commercial dip, as is to be expected in a midweek slot, but insisted they are not losing money. United's biggest gripe with the scheduling is the impact on supporters who travel from far and wide for games at unsociable hours. That was sourced from Nathsalt, One and Mailsport. Now, here is my analysis. This story is interesting for a couple of reasons. First, the financial dimension. Up to £1 million per game in reduced revenue across 6 Monday night fixtures represents a potentially significant cumulative figure. If we do the simple arithmetic across all 6 games, the commercial impact could be in the region of £6 million over the course of the season. For a club that is navigating financial regulations carefully, that is not a trivial number. But the second dimension here is actually more important in my view, and that is the supporter experience dimension. The club has been explicit that its biggest concern about Monday night scheduling is not the commercial loss. It is the impact on the fans, the people who travel from far and wide, the people who take days off work, book trains, arrange accommodation, all to follow their club at hours that are designed for television audiences rather than human beings. The fact that the club has chosen to frame the conversation around fans rather than finances is a meaningful signal. Whether that reflects genuine concern or smart public relations, the acknowledgement itself is notable. For a club trying to rebuild its relationship with its supporter base, being seen to advocate for fans in conversations about scheduling is exactly the right posture. Whether it results in any actual change in scheduling practices is a separate question entirely. Amad Diallo confidence crisis. UT Truthful posted this, quoting Stephen Railston. Amad looks low on confidence, which is something his teammates can clearly sense, because Casemiro ran the length of the half to congratulate him for his role in Sesko's goal. There is no denying his output hasn't been good enough, but anyone writing him off is foolish. He was a key player in the first few months of the campaign and provided 10 goals and 11 assists in 2024 to 2025. Some football fans have incredibly short memories. He needs support to get through a challenging period. He has faced adversity before, forcing his way into the team after being overlooked by Erik ten Hag, and should emerge as a better player for it. Now here is my analysis. The detail about Casemiro running the length of the half to congratulate Amad is genuinely revealing. That is not a standard teammate gesture. That is a deliberate act of emotional support from a senior player who recognized that a younger teammate needed to feel valued. It speaks to the human side of football that we do not always discuss in analysis. But let us talk about the numbers, because the numbers tell an important story. 10 goals and 11 assists in the 2024 to 2025 season. That is 21 direct goal contributions. That is not a backup player. That is a key player. A genuinely important player for this football club over that period. The problem with form dips is that they compress memory. Supporters who have watched Amad struggle recently may genuinely have forgotten how important he was just a short time ago. That is human nature, but it is not accurate analysis. What the evidence suggests is that Amad Diallo is a player going through a difficult patch, not a player who has suddenly lost his ability. Those are very different things. Players who have demonstrated the quality to produce 10 goals and 11 assists in a season do not simply lose that quality. What they lose temporarily is confidence. And confidence is recoverable. The reference to his history with Erik ten Hag is also important. This is a player who has already shown he can fight his way back from being overlooked. He has done it before. That kind of resilience is not nothing. It is actually a significant character trait in a footballer. Amad needs time, support, and consistent opportunities. Writing him off right now would be one of the biggest mistakes United fans could make. Aiden Heaven and Matthijs de Ligt. Looking ahead, Thoughtful posted this. There is a feeling Aiden Heaven can play more often next season. De Ligt might be out with a back injury, but once fit, there is a belief he too can cope with the rigors of a more arduous season. Now here is my analysis. 2 stories in one post here, and both are relevant for United's planning going into what will be a significantly busier season, starting with Aiden Heaven. The suggestion that he can play more often next season is an interesting one. He is a young player who has been working his way into the squad picture, and if the belief inside the club is that he is ready for a bigger role, that speaks well of his development. A Champions League campaign demands depth across every position. Having young players who are trusted to contribute meaningfully is exactly the kind of resource a club needs. On De Ligt, the situation is more delicate. A back injury is always a concern because of its potential to be recurrent and because of the physical demands it places on recovery. However, the framing here is cautiously optimistic. The belief is that once he returns to fitness, he can handle the intensity of a more demanding schedule. That is not a guarantee, but it is a positive signal. For United going into a season with Champions League football, European midweeks, domestic cup competition, and a full Premier League campaign, having both of these defenders available and contributing would be enormously valuable. The squad depth question is a real one, and every piece of good news on this front matters. Michael Carrick vindicated by PSG versus Bayern. Now let us move into the article analysis, starting with the story around Michael Carrick being vindicated by the Champions League semi-final between Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich. The situation is this. PSG and Bayern played out a 5-4 thriller at the semi-final stage of the Champions League. It was an extraordinary game of football. And the reason it is relevant to Manchester United is what it revealed about the tactical philosophies of Luis Enrique and Vincent Kompany, and how those philosophies compare directly to what Michael Carrick is doing at United. The evidence suggests that both Luis Enrique and Vincent Kompany operate with a similar structural belief. They build defensive discipline, they close spaces between the lines, they make pressing and running non-negotiable. But within that defensive structure, they give their attacking players genuine freedom, real freedom, the freedom to express themselves, to create, to improvise, to be unpredictable. And the result of that approach in the biggest game of the European season this week was a 5-4 spectacle that had the entire football world talking. Now, here is why this vindicates Michael Carrick. Carrick has been saying throughout the season that he provides a basic structure for his players to operate within, but that what happens inside that structure is up to them. That is not a tactical weakness, that is a deliberate and sophisticated philosophy. It is the same philosophy being used right now by the manager of the team that beat the reigning German champions in a Champions League semi-final. The reality is that world-class players perform at their absolute best when they are given freedom within structure. Rigid, choreographed systems that remove individual expression might look impressive in training sessions and tactical presentations, but they often suppress the very qualities that make elite players elite. Carrick understands this. And the performances of Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo this season, playing what has been described as the best football of their careers, are a direct reflection of that understanding. The criticism of Carrick that this vindicates, and it is worth being direct about this, is the lazy suggestion that his approach lacks tactical sophistication, that he is simply throwing players out and hoping for the best. That criticism now looks completely misinformed when placed next to the tactical profile of Vincent Kompany, one of the most respected young managers in European football. The analytical point here is about ceiling. Carrick's system is not a ceiling for talented players. It is an accelerator. The better the players, the more impressive the system looks. And that matters enormously as United head into a summer transfer window with Champions League football to offer as an incentive. Recruitment is the next chapter in this story. The evidence from this season suggests that Carrick knows how to maximize what he has. Better players will make the maximization even more spectacular. The Marcus Rashford situation. Now let us talk about Marcus Rashford, because this story deserves proper, serious analysis. The situation is clear. Marcus Rashford is currently on loan at Barcelona. Barcelona hold a £26 million option to buy him before a June deadline. And the situation right now is that Barcelona's interest appears to be cooling. The club's sporting director, Deco, is said to be keen on evaluating the wider market rather than committing to the deal that was discussed last year. Despite this cooling interest, Rashford has continued to contribute at Barcelona. He scored his 13th goal of the season against Getafe recently, helping push Barcelona closer to the league title. So the player is performing. The output is there, but the club's commitment to a permanent deal is wavering. Now let us talk about what Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes had to say, because both former United players offered significant perspectives here. Butt said, and I am reading his words accurately, "I think it would be wrong for Marcus for it to happen. He's made that break now, and that would be the toughest thing he had to do." He continued by saying that leaving your boyhood club is the hardest thing a player can do, and that Rashford going to Villa and then to Barcelona represented that break. He concluded that Rashford will go somewhere else. The question is just where and who can afford him. Scholes then made a sharp and honest point. At Barcelona, he will only ever be back up to Rafinha and Yamal. He posed the question directly. Does Rashford want to be a backup option at one of the biggest clubs in the world, or does he want to go somewhere like Aston Villa and play every single week? But responded by saying Marcus needs to play every week. He needs confidence. He needs an arm round him. Then you have an unbelievable talent. And he added something that I think is crucial. When he's a bit part player and he's not playing every week and he's not feeling loved, that's when he loses his love of football. Scholes ended the discussion with a clear verdict. I think his time is done at United. Now, here is my full analysis on this situation. The Rashford question is one of the most complicated situations surrounding Manchester United right now, and it deserves to be treated with nuance rather than simplicity. Let us start with the Barcelona situation. £26 million as a buy option for a player who has scored 13 goals this season is on the surface a modest fee. Barcelona's hesitation to activate that option is therefore somewhat puzzling from a purely footballing standpoint. But the financial reality at Barcelona is complex. The club has been navigating serious financial pressures, and committing to a permanent deal, even at £26 million, requires careful consideration of their overall budget. The cooling of interest means that Rashford's future is genuinely uncertain, and this creates a difficult situation for Manchester United as well. The club, according to the available information, would prefer a permanent sale rather than another loan arrangement. United want clarity. They want the Rashford chapter to conclude with a sale that brings in a fee rather than another temporary arrangement that leaves his contract status unresolved. And then there is the Tottenham dimension. It is important to be clear here. Tottenham's interest is described as genuine, but it remains interest. It is a rumour at this stage, not a confirmed negotiation. Furthermore, any Tottenham deal would be dependent on their own league position, as they are currently in the relegation zone with 4 games remaining. But the deeper story here is about what Rashford needs as a footballer and as a person. Both Butt and Scholes, 2 men who know United deeply and who know what it takes to perform at the highest level consistently, are aligned on one point: Rashford needs to play regularly. He needs to feel important. He needs an environment where he is central rather than peripheral. The evidence from his career supports this entirely. When Rashford has been in form, when he has been playing regularly and feeling confident and feeling loved by the club and the fans, he has been a devastating footballer. When he has been uncertain of his place, when the environment has felt hostile or unsupportive, his performances have dipped sharply. Butt's observation that Rashford loses his love of football when he is not feeling valued is not a criticism of the player. It is an honest recognition of what makes Rashford function as a footballer, and finding him the right environment is genuinely important, not just for his career, but for his well-being. Scholes is right that his time at United appears to be done. The relationship between Rashford and the club has broken down to a point where a return seems unlikely to benefit either party. What matters now is finding him a destination where he can rediscover his best football, whether that is Barcelona on a permanent deal, a club like Aston Villa where he would play every week, or another option entirely. The priority has to be finding him a place where the conditions are right for him to thrive, because the talent is undeniable. 13 goals this season for Barcelona. The ability has not disappeared. The question has always been the environment. And that is the final point I want to leave you with on this story. When a player of Rashford's ability has had the kind of disrupted and difficult period he has had, the natural instinct is to judge the player, to question the talent, to say the level has dropped permanently. But the evidence does not support that conclusion. What the evidence suggests is that this is a player who performs when conditions are right and struggles when they are not. The solution is not to write him off. The solution is to find the right conditions. Where those conditions exist in the summer of 2026 remains the key question around Marcus Rashford. Let me bring all of this together for you now. Manchester United are 93% certain to finish in the top 4. That is a seismic shift from where this club was just months ago. Michael Carrick's management approach has been quietly validated by the most exciting game in European football this week. His philosophy is not a limitation. It is an accelerator for talent. There is genuine transfer movement happening around this club. Francisco Conceicao is being monitored. And I want to remind you that is a rumour at this stage. Jarrad Branthwaite remains a serious target, with discussions already having taken place. Those are 2 very different levels of progress, and it is important to understand the distinction. Diallo is going through a difficult period, but the numbers from last season prove he has quality. He needs support, not abandonment. Eindhoven may play more next season, and De Ligt is expected to return to full fitness. And Marcus Rashford's future remains unresolved. With Barcelona cooling on their option, Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes both suggesting his time at United is done, and his next destination still unclear. There is a lot happening around this football club right now, and the most important thing you can do as a United supporter is separate confirmed information from rumour, understand the full context of each story, and resist the instinct to react before all the facts are clear. That is what this channel is here to help you do. Thank you for watching Emma United Analyst. If this video gave you value, please subscribe, leave a comment below telling me which story today you found most interesting, and share this video with a United supporter who you think would benefit from proper analysis. I will see you in the next one.